Bullying. What exactly is bullying? Growing up, I always thought that a bully was someone who verbally and physically intimidated you, especially on a consistent basis. So it was essentially someone that would intimidate you and either threaten to beat you up or seek opportunities to, I guess you'd say, prey on someone that's physically weaker than they are and try to beat them up. So that's kind of how I saw bullies as. But now these days, it seems like bullying can come in all sorts of forms. Verbal, online, physical. And then you have, there's different types of bullies. You have those who are like the alpha male, or it could be a female as well, like the leader of a group. Then you have some that may be part of the cool crowd. And then you have the lone wolf bullies. And so it makes me wonder, why exactly do people bully? And I have my theories, so feel free to leave down in the comments what you guys think. But I think it can depend on who the bully is. Are they part of a group or are they a lone wolf? Lone wolves, I feel like, more than likely is because they don't feel good about themselves. They lack self-confidence. So they're going to seek out someone who's easily preyed upon and try to boost themselves by making someone else feel bad about themselves or showing dominance. That's the big thing about bullies, especially with the lone wolf ones. They may try to find ways to feel dominant, power. It's all about power. Now, as far as those in a group, you would have to think that, okay, if you're part of a group, especially a leader of a group, you would have to have a certain amount of confidence to be part of that group. And especially like if you're part of like the cool crowd at school growing up, or even at the office, or wherever you may be, you've got to have a certain amount of confidence to be part of a group. So it leads me to believe that there are bullies out there who are high in confidence, who feel good about themselves, but maybe they don't feel like it's enough. So they will seek out someone who they think, given the opportunity, so they can bolster their self-esteem. And it's a true fact that a lot of bullies out there go on to be happily married, kids, fulfilling careers, lots of money, good retirement. And I mean, that's just how it is. And I'm thinking about to come across some hikers, but yeah. And I think that's more so probably the bullies. Oh, hey.
Sorry to interrupt.
That's all right. All right, so it's more so, especially those who are part of a crowd. Now, I'm going to give you guys 3 experiences I had with bullies. Actually, I'll make it 4, because each one is different. And so I'm going to start off with one that I encountered at summer camp. No, let's go a little further back. Let's see. I'm trying to go in chronological order. No, we're going to go back a little further back. I was like in 6th or 7th grade, and this was a lone wolf bully. And supposedly he may have had a couple of friends, but no, this guy was a lone wolf bully. And he would see me at like the pizza place playing the video games, the arcade games. And I remember one time he just came in. It's like, he asked me, "Do you have any quarters?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, I can spare you a couple of quarters." So I thought I was just, he was just trying to be cool with me. And I'm like, okay, I've got a lot of quarters. It's not going to hurt for me to give him 1 or 2 quarters. So I gave him a couple quarters. But then next thing I know, he starts reaching in my pockets, grabbing more change. It's like, can I have another quarter? And I'm like really into my game. I'm like, I think I was playing Contra. Yeah, I think I was playing Contra. Yes, I actually remember the game I was playing, Contra, because I was doing really good. And I was also using a lot of quarters because I wanted to keep getting further along the game. And then he just keeps starting to reach in the pocket. Okay, and then eventually my game ended. And so I kind of left. And then another day, he saw me at a frozen yogurt shop. And that's when he was like coercing me to give him $2. And he got to the point where he was like threatening me. Like he even said to me, like, "Fork it over here. Where's my $2? I want you to give me $2. And he was like, so eventually I gave him the $2. And luckily, a good Samaritan saw what happened. And he was kind enough to give me $2. He's like, "Yeah, that's definitely a typical bully. I'm sorry that had to happen to you." So that's my first experience with a bully. Okay, I'm coming across a couple more hikers, so bear the silence for a little bit. Okay. All right, so, all right. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so the second encounter I had with a bully was during a summer camp. I was at Camp Orkila. I was 13 years of age, and this one really, like, I wouldn't say he was buff, but he was definitely bigger than I was, outweighed me, and definitely was much stronger than I was. I mean, because I was at 13 years old, I was like so skinny. I looked like an anorexic. That's how skinny I was. And so this guy was just like, more than likely wasn't feeling good about himself, because he was like, he just sought me out and he was like, what are you looking at there, big nose? You got a problem there? He would call me, that was like the thing he called me, was big nose and something else. But yeah, for the first few days, he would really intimidate me. And so other people in the camp were like, yeah, it's like, why is it that like the nice people always get like picked on, like Donnelly, but then you have like the really big and strong people who have to be the bullies? But this guy actually left a memorable impression on me, because about midway through camp, he was actually getting bullied by someone else. And so he kind of, I guess, must have experienced what it was like to be bullied. So we ended up kind of hanging out, and we, in a way, started to become friends. And so, yeah, we hung out, towards the latter part of camp. And on the final night, we were saying our goodbyes, because the next day we were all going back home. And so, we had like a big campfire, all the campers kind of just like singing and just kind of saying our goodbyes. This guy, he gave me a hug and he was in tears. So I think that's like a happy ending right there. So that's a good old happy ending. Okay, now the next guy, and I've actually looked this guy because I want to make sure I don't get my facts wrong, but this guy was definitely an outlier as far as how I feel bullies are. But he was someone who, I was staying with his parents. His parents were like happily married for like over 40 years. So, and his brother, I hung out with his brother, skied with his brother. His parents even they would take me up skiing every weekend a few years back. So I went skiing with them every weekend. So it looked like he had a very stable upbringing, very loving family. Because, his brother was nice. And so, because I was trying to stay in the Seattle area for a few more months before I went to Columbia, and we couldn't really find anywhere else to stay, they offered to put me up for the remaining of the summer. And so there was a misunderstanding that he thought I was going to be out of there by like middle of August, when I wasn't going down to Columbia until like mid to late September. I was definitely going by late September, because that's when my plane ticket was. So no matter what, I was leaving by late September. But eventually he started being like, you got to get motivated and start moving out. And he would just start hassling me more and more. And he would do it in front of his wife and kids. And then one time I remember even his wife would get on me. And I remember this one time they drove by in their car, and they were like yelling at me. It's like, you need to hurry up and get out. And that was like, it kept getting worse and worse from there on out. Then one day, I think it was late August or early September, I went for a bike ride. I had forgotten to let the dogs out. And when I got back, that's when all hell broke loose. He had locked the doors, and then he made me go. So basically I went over to his house, and that's where he basically made sure the whole neighborhood knew that he wanted to let the neighborhood know that he felt that I was a bum, a loser. And I mean, he yelled at me more than I experienced anyone getting yelled at during my time in the military. You got that right. He yelled at me for a longer duration than I experienced anyone during boot camp, and anyone, even like during like pre-buds training and like Navy dive school. I mean, it was intense. I mean, and so this is the thing I don't understand, because this guy was married, had 2 kids, stable family. He was a software engineer, and the following year, he would begin his 20-year career as a principal somewhere like really high up at Microsoft. 20 years, highly successful, obviously had friends. So this is the guy that I I don't know what it is. He's definitely an outlier, but I think this is a case where it's like, he saw an opportunity to be like, okay, I've got this bum staying with my parents. I'm going to increase my self-confidence and make it known that I've got authority. This is why I'm successful. And he decided to use his assertiveness. And I guess so basically it's like, he knew he was so confident, and he must have not liked me for some reason, that he's like, okay, I'm confident. I'm just going to get this guy out of my parents' house. And so I ended up sleeping in my car for 2 weeks. I was homeless. Yes, I have been homeless for 2 weeks. And I will have to admit, not being able to take a shower, I got pretty raunchy. So, yeah, but finally, a friend of mine that I met snowboarding at Alpental, let me stay with him for like the last 2 weeks. So basically, I was homeless for 2 weeks. Then I stayed at one place, one of my mom's other friends, for like a few days, a week. And then I stayed at my friend's house for like about a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And then I was off to Colombia. So that's my third experience with a bully. And so now, here we are, into like my lower to mid-20s. And this is the guy that told me that I needed to pick up a sport to build up my weenie legs. Yeah, I mentioned this guy before. This is a guy I remember that I would see at quite a few different mountain bike races. And he would just like be like, what are you doing, Donnie? Your face looks like junk. You're not supposed to look like that. The race is over. And he would find other things too. Something about like my clothing. And sometimes he would seem like he was cool. Other times he would definitely be more so like really trying to embarrass me. But he was like a combination. Sometimes he would haggle me when he was by himself. Other times he would do it in a group. And then there would be other times too when another friend of mine was actually hanging out with this guy in a big group. So I really don't know where this guy came from, but that's how that was. And yeah, it all started off when I was carrying out his groceries because I was a courtesy clerk at Safeway. And yeah, and I told him, it's like, yeah, I want to get into cycling to kind of help my skiing. And he's like, yeah, you ought to pick up a sport to build up those weenie legs of yours. So that's my different experience with who you may call bullies, or maybe just, physical trolls. And so and of course, that's what I think of bullying. When I think of bullying, I think it's a lot more intense because teasing is different than being bullied. Teasing, I think, is like a lower form of bullying. It's not quite bullying, but yeah. And I was really teased a lot during my grade school years. And even like at skiing Alpental, especially like my teens to early 20s, I was even teased on the mountain. I remember one guy, he would tell a friend of mine that's like, yeah, Donnie skis like a box. He's got like horrible form. And I will admit, my form skiing was not the greatest in my teens. It was pretty horrific, actually. Double pole plat, swivel hips. And so I'm going to come up here. This is a good stopping point. I'm just going to go get to the first bench here. So yeah, I will admit that I wasn't the greatest skier in my teens. I'm just trying to get to this bench here, and then I'm going to head back down. All right. It's going to come to so this is what's called the first bench. It's about 800 feet above the water. The first bench. Okay, so let's come up here. All right. Back down the other way. Just wanted to do that. All right, that's the first bench right there. It's actually a Strava segment. So that's my experience, guys. And can it affect one's self-confidence later on in life? Well, bullying and teasing can certainly leave lasting effects. The effects can remain dormant for many years, and you might just kind of go on in life like I did, after my lower 20s, my mid, upper, and lower 30s. It probably just remained dormant because, I started going to community college. I was a super, fit cyclist, runner, competing in triathlons, bike racing, ultra running, doing 50Ks, 50 milers, even managed to get in a century ride, ran the Boston Marathon on a couple of occasions. So yeah, that experience being bullied it must have laid dormant for a long time. And so that's how it works. Whether it's you experience trauma earlier on in life, super early, or whatever it may be, sometimes you can just develop the ability to kind of suppress those emotions. And it seems like, oh, okay, well, nothing's going to come out of it. You may seem to go on and live the rest of your life normally. But then sometimes you may experience a life event that can kind of make those things resurface. And, later on in life, it can actually cause someone to experience an adverse event, and they may lack the resiliency because of those earlier events. Lacking the resiliency can end up resulting in developing like depression, anxiety, and other things. So that's why it's like someone who has a good, stable upbringing or a good, stable self in their younger years, if they experience some adverse event compared to, say, someone else who did not have a good, stable upbringing or experience teasing and bullying, well, if they experience that adverse event, they may end up, developing, some mental issues. So that's kind of what I wanted to say. So, yeah, earlier events can definitely lead to, experiencing something later on in life. And then that triggering event can cause you to start developing, like I mentioned, depression, anxiety, and so forth. So that's what I want to mention to you guys. I know this was kind of a long video, but yeah, so let me know what you guys think. Feel free to share, what you feel, how you would label a bully versus teasing or trolling. So thank you all for watching. That's going to do it for now. Take care, everyone. Peace.